Hello and namaste, my name is Nidhi Nagori and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm covering a question that you have asked me consistently, repeatedly over the last few days, which is how does the Ukraine and Russia conflict impact immigration, impact visa sponsorships, and impact opportunities just in terms of trying to move abroad? Is this the right time? If that question has gotten you anxious in the last few days, then this video is for you. Before I move any further into the video, I quickly want to thank KuCoin for collaborating with me on today's video. I don't know if you guys have a lot of memory of what happened on the day the conflict was announced, the day Russia said that they're going to go invade Ukraine. I remember it quite well because I remember opening my news app first where I saw that Russia was finally invading Ukraine. And then I remember seeing a lot of unfortunate memes on social media about how the stock market was crashing. Now, of course, these were made from different perspectives. It was sad that there was another war that was being launched, a full-scale war. And at the same time, it was sad that a lot of people were losing their money because the stock markets were temporarily crashing. Just keep in mind that at that time, a lot of nations across the world had not even announced economic sanctions in Russia. Today, as we can see it, all these nations have come together. The world is united in crippling the Russian economy and telling them that the war was a really bad decision. So yes, everybody is together in that. But back then, nothing was announced. You had the commodity prices going haywire. You had oil prices rising. You had the stock markets crashing. And a lot of investors took some quick and crazy decisions. Some people saw the market crashing and decided to withdraw all their investments from the market. Some people thought that this was the right time to invest, so they went ahead, put in more money into the market. In short, not a lot of people took wise decisions at that time. Why? Because quick decisions when it comes to investments may not always be the smartest thing. I personally think that investments are good if they are consistent. Why? Because consistency in investments allows you to take advantage of a lot of things, one of which being dollar cost averaging. So what is dollar cost averaging? Dollar cost averaging in very simple terms is when you decide that there's a pool of money that you want to invest and you invest it periodically irrespective of what the commodity price is or whatever you're trying to buy, irrespective of whatever the price of that particular product is. You make periodic investments, and that periodic investment, because you're consistent, takes care of the price volatility. Data has shown that historically, dollar cost averaging always works in the favor of the investor, and it is much better than timing the market consistently. How do I know that? Well, I'm on the DCA BTC website. You can see the screenshot up here, and you can also go on this website and do your own research. Now that we all know that DCA is good, how can you take advantage of DCA? Simple, just invest $1 a day in Bitcoin and give up on the worries of figuring out when to buy it, of consistently timing the market, etc. And now if you're wondering how to do it, here's a quick and simple way. Get started on KuCoin. All that you have to do is create an account on KuCoin, deposit INR to get USDT, make sure you use the P2P option, it's very simple to use. And then quickly go onto the trading bot and create $1 a day plan. It's simple and easy to do and does not take more than a few minutes. In crazy times like these, it is important to constantly be reminded of the good investment options that we have, one of which is DCA, dollar cost averaging, and I hope that you will take advantage of it by investing through KuCoin. And now let's come back to our video. Let me start off by saying that I do understand how dire the consequences are. I don't think a lot of us even understood that the war had begun. At least me, the first few nights, I just remember waking up through the night, checking the news app that I have on my phone for any breaking news to see if Ukraine was falling or if there was ceasefire. In short, a lot of us could not come to terms with the fact that there was another war going on yet again. If there's one thing that humanity has learned in the last couple of years is that wars do not lead to positive consequences for just anyone. So when another conflict hit the world, it really shocked most of us. Basically, you were not the only one anxious. We, overall, the world, were anxious. And trust me, I expected the first few questions to come from my followers on Instagram. I knew they'd be anxious. I knew their families would be concerned, their parents would be concerned, and they would be wondering, is this even the right time? When I saw the questions increasing, I decided that I should at least put the facts out. By no means am I an immigration expert, but what I'm going to give you today is publicly available information. These are literally taken from news websites. If you go Google them, you'll find these exact websites and you will lead to the same results as I have. So while I may not be an expert in immigration to literally any country in the world, I do have the advantage of following it, monitoring it closely, and the advantage of knowing about a lot of the immigration laws through the job, through my work that I do. As of today, the world is undergoing 25 conflicts, 5 of which are major, 1 of which is the Ukraine-Russia conflict. So this is not the only conflict that's ongoing in the world. There are a lot of wars going on. A lot of people are becoming refugees or are being war-torn, being forced to leave their countries, or are simply being killed. But the reality is that this is not the only ongoing conflict of 2022. In fact, in the past few years, we've rarely had a year where we've not had a conflict. Why is this information important? Well, because conflicts typically give rise to refugees, and it's only when you have refugees that developed countries come up with their refugee settlement program or refugee outreach program. If you remember the Taliban crisis, which happened in Afghanistan recently, a lot of countries, including Canada, stepped up to take in Afghan immigrants. Now, these were mostly refugees. I happen to be on the board of one of the largest immigrant and refugee settlement agency in Canada, IWC, and through our work, I got to know of all the resettlement programs that the government was running for refugees. New programs were being curated for new bunch of refugees that were arriving. So when the Afghan refugees were being brought in, different resettlement efforts and different resettlement programs were being launched. So why is this information important? It's important to understand that most governments of developed countries are in place to handle refugee crisis. They do have programs that are already in place that they can run, maybe escalated to a certain level, but they do have programs and structures in place. So when the refugee crisis in Ukraine was happening, the numbers might be unprecedented, but the structures do exist. And these structures need only building up upon. That means that developed countries, which are generally target for migrants, for people like yourselves who are watching these videos, while it might be a little bit of a burden on them financially, they do have a structure that's in place. They can build up upon that and take these people in and resettle them. So now that we understand that this is not the only ongoing conflicts, that refugees have been coming in the developed countries for some time now, and that all these countries have their own programs in place to resettle the refugees, let's look at some of the numbers. As of today, when I'm recording this video, the number of people who've left Ukraine and have become refugees in other countries is expected to come close to 1.5 million. Now, I know that these numbers are unprecedented, but we cannot look at them just in isolation. So while you're considering the 1.5 million number of refugees that are leaving Ukraine, you also have to consider the labor shortage that exists in the Western world, especially Europe. Let me make this super simple for you. We have the 1.5 million number of refugees, and here I'm going to pop up some of the labor shortage statistics of some of the countries. I'm not even covering the entire Europe. I'm just covering some of the countries. And I will also pop up some news screenshots here so you'll be able to see where that data is gathered from. I'm sure you know that one country that has taken a lot of these Ukrainian refugees has been Poland. In quarter 2 of 2021, Poland released an official statistics and official statement stating that it was unable to hire for more than 318k jobs. That's just quarter 2 of 2021. Keep in mind the situation obviously hasn't gotten better because now almost all the countries in the world are fully open, and this is a time when all these countries are in a major labor crisis, and we'll see how that happens. But for now, just keep the 318k for Poland in mind. Obviously, this number is on the lower end because it's just for one quarter, but I want to stay conservative in my calculation. Next up, let's look at the largest countries, the ones that hold most amount of power in Western Europe. Germany and France. On Jan 11, 2022, which is this year, the German numbers stated that they were already short of 300k people at the minimum. If you go and do some more research, you'll realize that the number is expected to cross 1 million in just this year. So Germany itself is expected to see a shortage of close to 1 million people, 1 million skilled labor just in this year. Now let's move on to France. While they have some extreme numbers coming up, and I don't want you to focus on the 2050 goal because I don't think the 2050 goal matters right now, do focus on the number that they have for current year, which is 260k plus shortfall. This means that they are not being able to hire for minimum of these positions. These are just jobs that they're not even able to find people to recruit. They're not even able to find candidates who are putting in resumes, who are applying to those jobs. So these are just jobs that have 0, 1 or 2 or like no applicants at all. For France, that number stands at 263k. Now let's move on to the northern part of Europe, which is the Nordic region. If you guys are following me on Instagram, you know that I'm already posting about a bunch of these countries, how the governments of these countries are literally running ads on Instagram to hire people. Denmark, Sweden, Norway, all of these countries are running ads on Instagram to hire international talent. I know this sounds completely whacked up. The first time I got those ads, I was just like, is this really happening? And then when I posted it and I had some of my followers get those interviews, then I posted it for another country I got an ad for. That was Estonia. A bunch of my followers got job interviews in that country. And I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. These countries are literally advertising on Instagram. So Denmark, Sweden, here's an official statistic. They're close to 100K in terms of shortage. Now I'm just going to average it out and put a 400K number. I've done the research. It should be more than that. But for conservatism, let's keep it at 400K. Finally, let's move a little bit more westward and move on to see what the UK labor shortage stands at. In Q2 of 2021, UK had a record number. They had at least 1 million in labor shortage. Where did I find this? In the Poland article itself. So I'm going to link it up right here, but you'll be able to see it. These are the numbers that we have, and I'm not even taking the entire Europe. Like I said, I'm just looking at some specific countries to give you guys an idea of where we stand in terms of labor shortage. I'm sure you're wondering, why is it important to understand this labor shortage and how does it impact you? Well, every time there's a refugee crisis, it's also important to understand if the world has capacity to absorb these refugees. As of now, we're looking at 1.5 million in Ukraine, but the labor shortage that's going around in just a handful of countries across the world that are happy to take these refugees in is more than the number that you see up here. Honestly, UK, Germany, France combined could take this entire number in, absorb them, retrain them, and resettle them. It is a massive undertaking for the federal and local governments, but it can be done. Now that we've looked at an important data point, let's come back to just some basic aspects of immigration and being a refugee. A lot of other countries like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand have already stepped up their Ukraine refugee resettlement program. The visa policies are super simple. Canada, for one, doesn't even have a cap. They will take an unlimited number of Ukrainian refugees. Whoever wants to move to Canada from Ukraine at this point can move to Canada. For France, that number stands at 263K shortage, and the Ukrainian refugees do have a space to be absorbed. Does it mean that it's all hunky-dory for you? Well, not really, because what happens in this case is you have this extra pool of migrants coming in, into the job market, into the labor market, and in this market, they are an immigrant, you are also an immigrant, so of course your standing is the same. Say suppose you're moving from Ukraine to Germany or from India to Germany, you are an immigrant for the German population, for the German employers. So obviously you have an added competition in the sense that now you were already competing against a pool of people who wanted to get into Germany, but now you're also competing with an additional pool that's coming in from Ukraine. So the competition for you will definitely go up, but the demand exists. As we've already seen in the numbers are way more than the people or than the number of refugees expected. So organizations in the world will not stop from hiring the right talent. In the end, when they say there's a labor shortage, what they really mean is there's a severe talent shortage. And good talent is not only respected, it is also preserved. Coming to another question that many of you keep asking me, is this even the right time to consider a move to the West? Well, I would say, why not? There's the perfect time for anything. There were conflicts that were ongoing last year, the year before that, even 5 years ago. There are conflicts that are ongoing right now, and there will be conflicts that will be ongoing in the future. Yes, the number may vary in terms of competition. Today, if you start applying, you might face severe competition because you are competing against a wider pool of people who want to get the same job. But always keep in mind that every organization is looking for the right talent. And one of the biggest talent that you can have and can hone on is language and communication skills. If you want to move to Europe, make sure that your English, communication skills, and the local language are in a good scale, that you're familiar with them, that you're conversant in them. If you want to move to North America, it's probably English, and maybe if you want to move to Canada, French is an advantage. So focus on your language, focus on your communication skills. And of course, if you want to move abroad for a career change, for education, do not stop. Why? Because nobody here is sitting to give you a job. In my opinion, the decision-making should happen when you get to the job offer, not before that. So once you have a secure job offer in hand, start putting the pros and cons down. Come up with what your expectations are about your life. Have a conversation with your family, see how they feel about it, see if they think that this is the right time to move or not, and then come to the decision point. Do not get discouraged and do not give up right now, because really, we're not at the tipping point yet. On that note, I hope that this data-heavy video was helpful for you. If you have a friend who is stuck in a similar situation, who's getting anxious about their plans of moving abroad, of trying a different culture, different experience, or if you have family that's anxious about you trying to do the same, please share this video with them. The goal is just to make people aware of statistics. As long as they know the data, as long as they know that governments have the capacity in terms of structures to resettle the refugees, and countries have the space to absorb these refugees, I think it will create less anxiety for anyone who has their dreams pinned onto the Western world. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the ongoing conflict? How has it impacted your mindset? Has it made you anxious? Has it still kept you positive in any sense? And also let me know what else would you like to see on my channel. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. I promise to see you in the next video. Until then, make sure you take care of yourself. Stay safe. Namaste.